At a conference like this, the attentive attendee is inundated by a tidal wave of interesting, exciting, and sometimes confusing information. And in addition, numerous articles are published in the professional literature that could be relevant to practice. In principle, a rapid and broad application of new knowledge in daily practice contributes to humane, good, and effective healthcare. However, implementation of knowledge is not self-evident, even if the knowledge has added value over the usual practice. The impact of knowledge transfer is often limited. A relatively small group become enthusiastic, shares the insights and new perspectives with their colleagues. But before new insights are actually implemented and applied in practice, it often takes a lot of time. Dutch research suggested that it can sometimes take up to 10 years before relevant practice become commonplace, and that often many professionals stubbornly cling to what they are used to doing, even though research has shown that what they do is ineffective, sometimes damaging, or in conflict with human rights. This morning, Professor Tyrer gave some striking examples of ineffective interventions. You would like what is valuable to be disseminated more widely, and that everyone in the workplace can take note of the developments and can become proficient in new interventions and contribute to the implementation of new insights. So unfortunately, much of the available knowledge does not find its way to practice. And one of the problems with the transfer of knowledge is that mental health professionals work across the country in countless sectors, countless institutions, and upskilling is an often costly affair for individual institutions. And I think e-learning can be part of the solution here. E-learning is a cost-effective way to enable individuals or groups that is independent of time and place. And internet has had a revolutionary effect on the way individuals learn in a world wherein higher education has gone virtually unchanged since the medieval period. So later on I will give you an example from the Netherlands. But first the question whether e-learning contributes to better results. The answer to this question is in a sense neutral. It doesn't really matter whether education is delivered in the classroom or through online technology. What is essential in both cases is in which teaching methods are applied. In other words, it is not so much e-learning as such that can lead to good learning outcomes, but rather which learning methods are applied in e-learning. So according to research, classroom education and e-learning have the same outcomes, and in principle, e-learning can therefore be a qualitatively equivalent alternative to centrally organized classroom education. So the best current evidence is that media are mere vehicles that deliver instructions but do not influence student achievement any more than the truck that delivers our groceries causes changes in our nutrition. This means that the effectiveness of both e-learning and classroom education can be increased if they apply and integrate certain proven teaching methods like realistic decision making and case studies with feedback. So comparative studies have shown the same thing for decades, namely that the medium as such is irrelevant, but its effectiveness is determined by how it's used and how effective its instructions are. So now for the example from the Netherlands. In 2011, 14 mental health institutes joined forces under the name GGZ Academy. GGZ is the Dutch abbreviation for mental health, so sorry for that. It sounds awful. The continuing education within mental health institutes in the Netherlands was expensive because each institute developed its own materials and designed their own training courses. Everyone was busy reinventing the wheel. And the aim of the collaboration was to jointly develop e-learning models that would be accessible to all the professionals of the 14 institutes via a special website. Since 2011, it has grown into a non-profit cooperative association with around 100 members, which means virtually all the mental health institutes in the Netherlands are a member of this initiative. Members are from all the sectors: child and adolescent psychiatry, forensics, addiction care, and so on, protected living environments, but also educational institutions where mental health nurses, social workers, and psychologists are trained. The activities of the cooperation are on this slide. So it's about developing and making learning materials for mental health professionals via a digital platform. And the platform also functions as a online community where people can exchange practices. It's about knowledge sharing and organizing activities to promote cooperation between the members. And we support the implementation of learning materials and the implementation of training and accreditation. And an important characteristic or hallmark of the organization is that the members are at the helm. They have the most important voice in the development of teaching materials, and each member has a contact person who participates in activities of the cooperation. And how it's financed is that member institutes contribute annually in proportion to the number of employees or students, and we use that money to develop new modules. If there's any money left, at the end of the year, we will return the money or we fund additional activities. So it's a non-profit initiative. And the members together, they determine which topics are important, and experts from the institutes, including at least one person with lived experience, determine the content of the e-learning. And some key data. We now have about 250 different e-learnings, and one e-learning takes for a student or a participant about 3 to 4 hours to complete the e-learning. There are 140,000 individual users, which means virtually all the mental health professionals in our country have access to the website, and also many students from the professions I just mentioned. We also organize training sessions, and here are some examples of topics that you can find in the catalog. Like suicide prevention, we have 4 or 5 modules about motivational interviewing, about psychosis, destigmatization, 5 modules on recovery processes, cognitive behavioral therapy. We have a module on the human rights, the CRPD, on shared decision making, and dealing, for instance, with difficult interactions. Ideally, I would have entered the website to show you what it looks like, but it was technically difficult, so I have to do it for the ones who understand Dutch, and there are some people in the room that understand Dutch, it speaks for itself. But this is how it looks like, one module. Who am I? This is the module dealing with difficult interactions. And the idea is that an interaction with a client is difficult not because of the symptoms of the client, but because of we don't understand why the client behaves as he or she does. So the difficulty is not per se something pathological, but it's something in the relation, in the dynamic between the professional and the client. So who am I? And if you push the start button, you get questions, you get information, an introduction, what you can expect. Then we have various cases. In this case, 3 different patients. You can push the button to watch the details. You get additional information. You have short video footage, the interaction between professional and on the right you can see the PDF icons. So this is underlying theoretical information that the student or the participant can download from the website, and where the rationale behind the content is explained. In the end, we have a test, because that's important. If you make the test, you get a certificate, and well, virtually all of the modules are acknowledged and recognized by the professional bodies, so you will get your points for professional education via finishing these e-learnings. And well, I don't know if it should be a kind of video, but well. So, well, it is in Dutch, but just give you an impression. This is a conversation between a client and a therapist, and since you don't know who is who, I'm not going to reveal who is who. But this is how it looks like, and this is, for instance, comes from a case study. This is a 45 interview between client and psychotherapist. So you can see actually it's very has a lot of information, because sometimes you have only footage of 2 or 3 minutes and you're supposed to understand what's going on, and sometimes we have like footage of 45 minutes with a complete conversation between the therapist and the client. So it's a very good method to learn. Now, I think an interesting issue is that, especially for Lithuania, Ukraine, and Belarus, is I've tried to find similar initiatives all over the world, but I couldn't find it. Of course, many institutes have e-learnings, but not as a cooperative effort in a country to make all this knowledge available for all the mental health professionals and for students. So I think it's kind of unique in the world so far. And the board of the academy is willing to make modules available for Lithuania and Ukraine to subtitle them and to help Ukraine and Lithuania if they are interested in implementing a system like this in their own country. So we're most happy to support you in that. There's only one small hiccup, that's money. So we have to find money for subtitling. And not all the modules will be relevant, because some are specifically for the Dutch culture and situation, but many of them, I guess about 50 or 60 of them, are also very interesting for Ukraine and Lithuania. So let's try to find money and to export this system to your countries as well. And I'm if you want to have more information, this is my email address, so you can always write me and then tell you more about it. So thank you very much.